thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Now, your acting career actually is quite extensive.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a while now.
You have been.
When am I going to stop?
Please don't stop. We love seeing you on screen. But so
thank
how old
you.
were you when you first started and got into comedy or acting? I'm not quite sure if you started out on comedy.
I actually wanted to be an architect. When I picked my subjects at the end of high school, it was almost my path in life to become a performer. One-on-one, I'm very shy. I'm a really shy person. But as soon as I hit the stage, it's almost like a metamorphosis. I turn into something else. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I become theatrical version of George. And that's dangerous. That's very scary. I did auditions for all the different subjects, but I ended up going to Rusden, which was a drama teaching course. I started learning how to be not only a drama teacher, but an actor. In the end, I didn't become a teacher because I wasn't that good at it. But I was really good at drama. That was natural to me. So the great thing about that was, it was a 4-year course. It took me 5 years to do because I got sick during that course with Crohn's disease. So I had to have a couple of operations, so I missed a year. But because I missed a year, I fell into a class with a friend of mine called Simon Palomares, who was Ricky in Acropolis Now. And at the same time, Nick Giannopoulos was at the same school. I never met him there, but I was aware of him as well. He was in the same year as Simon, so it put me into that zone. And then Simon and I got along really well because we had a similar kind of feel for comedy, and we were both from ethnic backgrounds. He's Spanish and I was Greek, so we really got along really well in a school that was mostly Anglo. Towards the end of that course, Simon and I were doing a couple of characters called the Tiboldi brothers, who sold test tube babies, like illegally, like a little community theatre project, which would go to different festas and, old people's homes and community centres, and we do like theatre in education sort of thing. It was a half a minute sketch that we did. It was almost like Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. And Simon said, hey, I've been doing a lot of stand-up comedy. Do you want to maybe do some tryouts? And I've gone, what are they? I'd never been to a comedy venue. I'd seen Eddie Murphy and, Rodney Roode on video, but I'd never really explored the stand-up world. So we went to a place called The Joke, which is like the Comedy Store here. And it was amazing. And the acts that came on, Richard Stubbs, Wendy Harmer.
You felt alive.
I just went, wow, what is this? This is amazing. Live comedy. And I'm in this room. And Simon said, well, this is where we're going to do it. So we probably did a couple of tryouts. We extended the routine from a 30-second spot to like a 15-minute show. Within a month, we had a guy from the Comedy Cafe in Melbourne going, we want you to do a show at our venue, just a 1.5 hour show. So from 30 seconds, 1.5 hour show. And we're going, how are we going to do that? Well, we had to write it. What are we going to write about? Well, let's do the stuff that we talk about at home and we have a laugh about. Let's do that, like the Aussie barbecue compared to the ethnic barbecue. What do we do? So we came up with all these characters. So it was the old Greek guy drinking coffee, thinking about the past, the funeral director trying to sell funeral packages, the two guys, Theo and Leo, and the hotted up Monaro going down Lygon Street, trying to chat up chicks and have punch-ons with other ethnicities, all that sort of stuff, which was almost like the blueprint for shows like Wogs Out of Work and future shows which had an ethnic theme. And before then, the only stuff that was ethnic on TV was Paul Hogan doing Luigi the Unbelievable, Lex Marinos as the Wog in Kingswood Country, and Joe Dolce singing, "What's the matter you, hey?" That was probably it. So when we did our show, and the reviewer from The Age newspaper came to review it, he said, "Ethnic comedy arrives at last. This is ethnic comedy in Australia." And Simon and I went, oh, so that's what we do. Ethnic comedy. Wow, we were just trying to be funny, but that's what we do. Apparently we've got a label, but we're ethnic comedians.
And you did all of this when you were young and single?
And we were young, single, getting into trouble. The great thing was the audience, the ethnic audience, we'd start off these shows and it'd be sort of like an, Anglo crowd. By about show 2, we had people coming in from Marrickville, we had people coming in from Leichhardt and they found us because they found that, oh, this is our comedy. We're relating to this. We love it. Eventually we grew and grew and grew and grew, and we were doing really well. While that was happening, I was doing auditions, and then I auditioned for the Flying Doctors, and I got the Flying Doctors, which was a big show then. And I was on it for about 3 years, but that was with Crawford Productions. And that character was a character called DJ, and they wanted an Italian character called Dominic Giustino. So I tried out for it, DJ, and I said, look, I'm Greek, why don't we call him Demetrius Joanides? Good, they loved that. We did it, so I wasn't Dominic, I was DJ. And then eventually we did Acropolis Now, and I became Mimo, and Dominic, in short in Italian, is, I think, Mimo. So I eventually became Dominic. Simon wasn't happy because it's like we had to break up the band. He started performing solo. I was flat out doing the Flying Doctors. While he was working solo, he met up with Nick again, and Nick approached Simon and said, hey, why don't we do a show? Actually, he approached both of us before I got into the Flying Doctors. He said, we should do a show and call it WOW. What's WOW? Wog's out of work, because we're all out of work. Anyway, I got work. But
so that's how it actually happened. The name came about because the actual real situation was you were out of work.
Yeah, we're out of work. So Simon and Nick got together to put a show together for the comedy festival. It was the start of the International Comedy Festival in Melbourne. They got a late spot in a tiny little theatre, the Universal 2, and they were going to do a wedding show. So that was the plan. But as they were working on their script, they met up with a girl called Maria Portesi, who was an Italian-Australian girl from Melbourne. So the three of them got together and they put all their sketches together. Simon took all our stuff from the Tibaldi brothers. Nick had some stuff that he worked on, you know, when he was studying at College of the Arts, and Maria had the stuff from Handspan Theatre, and there was a whole bunch of sketches, and they wrote a couple of extra things where they were all in the same scene together, and they became Wogs Out of Work. Anyway, while all that was about to happen, and I'm working on the Flying Doctors with Crawfords, they've gone, look, we know the show's really popular. We know you know those two guys. Can you talk to them about maybe you guys putting a TV show together? You don't get that now. Nobody asks if you can do a TV show.
Yeah, that's true.
They were ready to fund it, whatever. There was a show called The Comedy Company then, which was a sketch show with, you know, characters like Con the Fruiterer. You know,
I remember Con the Fruiterer.
And Kylie the schoolgirl. You know, Colin. So they've gone, can you do like an ethnic version of that? We've gone, no, let's not do that. They said for us to put together a TV show. So we said, hey, we were big fans of shows like Cheers and Happy Days and all those sort of sitcoms, American sitcoms and English sitcoms. We've gone, why don't we do a sitcom about a cafe? And it's like an old-fashioned cafe, and the young ethnics, you know, there's a Greek, there's a Spanish guy, and there's an old, you know, Greek off the boat, and they want to turn it into a yuppie bar rather than an old-fashioned cafe. They've gone, we love the idea. Okay, write it. And we've gone, what? They go, write it. We go, we've never written for TV before. We don't know what to do. They go, no, don't worry, we'll give you the best in the business. They gave us Andrew Knight, who was the best in the business, and a few other people. We put it together as a pilot, and we shot it. We wanted Jim, who's Nick Giannopoulos' character, his dad, to be in the show, but we couldn't find anyone Greek who was at that age level. We did the pilot, and we shot it with like a Serbian guy, I think he was, but he just wasn't right. Anyway, Channel 7 loved the pilot, but we had to recast it. And we ended up getting a guy from the UK, an actor called Warren Mitchell. He was a really famous actor who played a part called Alf Garner, I think was the name of the character. He's like a West Ham supporter from the UK, but he played an excellent Greek. And he's a bit of a method actor because he had to slap Nick in a scene, and he kept on doing retakes. He goes, oh no, I'm not happy with that, let's do it again. I think he just wanted to slap Nick. So Nick had a big red mark on his face by the end of the shoot. But anyway, he was perfect. And we shot the pilot, we were happy with it, and that was in 1988. And in 1989 we had our first series. And the series was going okay, but there was just something missing. So we had to write a character, and that was the character of Effie and Sophie. So we auditioned a bunch of girls. I think Mary at the time was going out with Nick, so she had prime position. Plus she was good. But we auditioned a few girls, and then Mary just stole the audition, and she became... and she was playing a similar sort of character in Wogs Out of Work. So at that stage, because Maria was arguing with the boys and we had to do a second company, Mary replaced Maria in Wogs Out of Work. and she played a character called Poppy. Poppy and the first version of Effie had a ponytail, or a little, you know, one of those things
oh
that
yeah,
girls have.
the 90s big hair.
That thing, but didn't have the big hair. No, she didn't have the big hair. And the character didn't quite work in her first episode, but then the wardrobe department at Seven came up with the frizzed up hair, and that was bang. So when Sophie and Effie came in, the next episode they came in with the frizzed up hair, it was like, aha, that's Effie.
And that's the character we've come to love and know.
Yeah, so Effie was like the Fonz in Happy Days. You know, she'd come in and it's like, funny, but here's trouble. And my character was like the old-fashioned, traditional kind of... And at the time, that wasn't appreciated as much as now. Now, Memo's become like this Elvis-like character because... You know, those characters, the Effie and the Jim characters were real 80s characters, but they kind of don't exist now. But Memo, he travels through because he was an old-fashioned, he's an old soul.
Do you know what? I really love the analogy you've placed there about all the different characters and how they relate as the Elvis or the Fonz. And these are iconic historical names.
That's right.
That are actually interwoven into Australian comedy, which you guys have created.
That's right, yeah. And we forget that we... You know, and people come up and go, oh, we love you, so, you know, Memo, we just think he was the best thing, and he reminds me of my dad, and, you know, all that sort of stuff, which you get a lot. And when we do our ethnic comedy, it's almost like making people laugh, but we're also making people reminisce. We're reminding people of people that they've lost, or grandparents they're about to lose, or a generation that's going to go away. And we keep those stories happening, and people love that.
Honestly, thank you so much for your time today. I have learned so much about comedy and the history that it's had, and also come along on the journey with you of multiculturalism and ethnicity and, you know, bringing out all that comedy to the screens. It's just been fabulous chatting with you and knowing all about the life of comedy and acting in Australia.
Well, that was my journey, you know, and in some ways I'm not in control of it. I'm being taken on this journey, you know, as if it's my God-given gift. I don't know. I can't explain it.